What's going on, people? We are Tottenham TV, back here for some more unpopular opinions. We haven't brought these to you for quite a while. We've asked Twitter to give us their unpopular opinions, and they've responded in their numbers. So we're going to make quite a few episodes out of these, and let's start off with the first episode here. And Sim, what have we got for you? What have we got?
Let's go. Let's dive into what Twitter opinions that we shall react to. And we'll first start off with Ben Stewart. He says, I preferred life under Martin Jol to Antonio Conte. Well, life under Jol was fun anyway.
Look, I completely agree with this. Is this even unpopular? I don't even know, because Martin Jol.
Well, you probably from the fans who don't remember the Martin Jol days.
Yeah, it's like this is when I started going away games under Martin Jol, and under Martin Jol is when my passion really started to, like, I always had passion for Spurs, but it's when it really like kind of took over me. And the atmosphere, home and away, every single game, no matter what the game was absolutely incredible. It felt like the start of something then. And when you're looking back at it now, what kind of was the start of something. And I even remember going to games at like Southend at home, where like now if you go to Southend at home at the new stadium, it's going to be dead atmosphere. Mm-hmm. Back then, it was absolutely buzzing, and
every game was a big game.
Every game was buzzing under Martin Jol, and the fans were brilliant back then. They really were.
Yeah, because there was a lot of apathy before Martin Jol came in. Again, it was quite in a similar way to now, but it was in a different way, because that we were mid-table for the whole Premier League era essentially. For 12 years, I think we'd never finished higher than 7th and haven't finished lower than 14th.
Yeah.
For the whole so literally the definition of mediocre was Tottenham Hotspur. So literally, people stopped caring about the football. Then Martin Jol came in. When Martin Jol came in, everything changed, and we actually got into Europe for the first time in many years, and actually started challenging for the top 4 for the first time in many years. And it was a lot of fun. I remember all the UEFA Cup games. When we first got into UEFA Cup, that was so much fun. I loved it. Yeah. Absolutely loved the Martin Jol days. Now you just with the fan expectation, with
back then there was
no one cares.
No expectations. That was the thing.
Exactly. You beat Norwich at home, mate. Everyone's like having the time of their life. Now it's like if you beat Norwich at home, no one cares.
If it's only 1-0, it's a bad result.
Exactly. Yeah. Oh, style of football. No one cared about style of football. It's just like you win. That's all you care about.
Yeah.
If you're winning, that's like unbelievable.
Those days were brilliant. I miss those days big time.
Bring back Martin Jol.
Yeah, exactly. All right, let's move on to the next one.
All right, the next one is from Conte out. It says, we should sell Hojbjerg even if Enrique comes in. Especially if Enrique comes in.
Look, my opinion on Hojbjerg is that he's a very good player, but I think when you're looking at that midfield, when you're looking at Bentancur, Pape Matar, Oli Skip, Pierre-Emile Hojbjerg, I actually think Hojbjerg is the one that can potentially be upgraded on. But I think that with Hojbjerg, I would still like to stick him around, keep him in the squad, because I think he's a very good member of the squad. He's got good mentality about him. But I just feel like, based on purely footballing ability, I actually think he's one that could potentially be upgraded on, but I wouldn't want to sell him.
You know what's actually interesting? If we were to, I think first of all, I kind of agree with it, because if Enrique comes in, you think about how Enrique wants to play football and who the midfielders he's had. Like, we don't have any of those. So we're going to have to make way for some midfielders if Enrique comes in, because he likes technical passers who like to dictate the tempo. Basically, Busquets, Rakitic, Xavi, Pedri, Gavi. These are the players that Enrique likes in his team, and we have literally none of those.
You know what could be a good deal that could be actually quite realistic is a potential kind of Hojbjerg, Ruben Neves plus money kind of swap deal with Wolves. That wouldn't be too out of the question.
Yeah, but Hojbjerg's I get that, but Hojbjerg is I feel like he's made this step to Spurs because he really whenever he comes out in the media, he always talks about, 4th isn't good enough. I want to be challenging for big things and all that kind of stuff. Would he go to Wolves?
Yeah, that is a big question. But like, if he was open to it, let's say, it would be a great deal to do, obviously, wouldn't it?
I think he would be, but I don't think this summer. I don't think this summer. I think he'd want to go to at least a team challenging for Europe. You would think.
Look, his his footballing ability is much higher than Wolves. I would say that, but I mean, I think that we do need a better passer in there in the middle of the park, and I think that when you're looking at the skill set of all our midfielders, Hojbjerg probably is the one that you could upgrade on the best.
because you're not going to get rid of Skip and Sarr right now. Young, high potential, playing really well. Bentancur has had an unbelievable season.
Basuma's just come.
Basuma's just come. So if you are going to get rid of one, Hojbjerg kind of makes the most sense. But I guess unless you want to cut your losses on Basuma straight away, but I wouldn't want to do that either. But yeah, it's going to be interesting. If someone like Enrique does come in, what does he do with our midfield? That is a big question.
Yeah.
I think someone like Pochettino would be much more willing to deal with our midfield that we have now. But yeah, next one.
Yeah, next.
Next one, we have Davey Spurs. He says, Levy can't take the blame for how this season has gone. He spent big last summer with a lot of Spurs fans happy with the business. A lot has to be looked at how we have played under Conte and the blame put on him.
It's an interesting one, this one, because I think he's wrong in a sense, but I also think he's right in a sense, where he's right and wrong in terms of Levy. In terms of Levy, like, he hasn't given us the best chances to succeed as we want to achieve this season, because what were our targets going into last summer? It was a centre-back and a right wing-back. He's brought in a right wing-back that the manager doesn't want to use. He's brought in a stopgap centre-back in Longley who's really not nowhere near good enough and not that much better than the current set of defenders that we have here. So in that sense, he hasn't done us the best service in terms of the summer, but he has spent a lot of money. But the money that he has spent, were they brought in for this manager, or were they just opportunities and players that have come in? It looks as though right now they were just opportunities. But on the flip side of that, when you're looking at how we've done this season, I think a lot to do with why we're not doing as well as maybe some people would like is because of all the circumstances that have gone into this season. Crazy amounts of injuries, Antonio Conte needing emergency surgery, the whole thing surrounding Fabio Paratici, Ventroni passing away, two of Conte's close friends apart from that passing away as well. So there's been a lot of crazy circumstances this season that has contributed to this. And I firmly believe if Arsenal had the same injury kind of crisis that we had throughout the whole season, they would be nowhere near where they are right now. And I firmly believe if we didn't have the injury crisis that we had this season, we would be much better off than we are right now. So I think there's a lot of different factors to why maybe we're not doing as well as we hoped. But I think definitely Levy comes under blame. Definitely the whole circumstances come into blame. And you've got to say the management come into blame as well. So I think everyone has their slice of the blame, really.
Yeah, I think you can make a good argument that Levy spent more money this summer than he has in previous, and he's definitely spent 60 million on Richarlison, he spent 25 million on Basuma. So look, there has been money spent, but the reality is he's done the same things he's always done, just to a bigger scale.
Yeah.
So a lot of the time he has spent money not in the right places, not where we really need to spend the money. He's done that again this summer. Defence was the biggest issue going into this season, and we didn't address it properly. So I think he has to take a big chunk of responsibility for how things have gone. But of course, Conte is not blameless. He hasn't got the best out of Basuma, which is definitely he has to take some blame for that. Richarlison not scoring a league goal and not being able to get the best out of him, he has to take a bit of blame for that as well. And his lack of his stubbornness in his use of Spence and all that kind of stuff, I guess you could lay blame on that front. But I think there's blame to share around. But definitely, if I was to do a hierarchy, I think Levy can't do the same thing, and then this one season you say okay, but he takes no blame, even though he's still done bad things again, even though this summer. So he has to take a lot of the blame.
I don't get what the value is on consistently buying players that are not for the manager and not for the system that we have. It just doesn't make any sense to me. What is the value in that for the next manager?
Yeah, it doesn't make sense, and it's clear to me at this point. Apart from Perisic, possibly
Porro.
Possibly Porro. I don't see any of those managers being what Conte wanted to fit the system. I just don't see it, and I think they've all pretty much like been signings because we can rather than we should.
Exactly. Completely agree, but let's move on.
Moving on to another one from Conte out. He says, Ndombele deserves to get a second chance.
Why? Why? Why does Ndombele deserve to get a second chance?
Everyone deserves second chances, don't they?
He's had second chance. He's had a third chance. He's had a fourth chance. How many chances can we give this guy? I mean, what he did against Morecambe, losing the game against a lower league team, and he gets subbed off for a poor performance, an absolute poor performance where he should be like best player on the park by some way. And he walks off like there's no care in the world. Like he doesn't even care if we go out of the competition. It was unforgivable, that, in my opinion. And on top of that, like, how can a professional footballer that costs that much money, that's on those kind of wages, act like he acts? It's completely I'm not giving him a second chance, third, fourth, sixth chance.
I disagree. I disagree with the statement. He deserves a second chance. I think the word "deserves" is. I think that's what makes me disagree with it. But if the question was Ndombele should get a second chance, that's a different question. Now,
should he?
I mean, first of all, depends who the manager is next season. But I mean, if we're going to be scrambling around spending big money on it to buy a centre mid, and we have Ndombele who from a potential point of view and quality point of view has got the potential to be one of the best in the league on his day, is it not worth just trying to see if they can somehow make it work and get it out of him? A new manager, a manager who's going to be on the front foot, possession based, rather than a manager who we've had before, who's maybe not suited in his style of play. If we have a manager who suits Ndombele,
really talking about this, Ndombele, another chance. Come on, man! Like, seriously.
Why
Seriously, not? Like, how many managers do have to fall out with him for us to say, like, no, just get rid of him now, we don't want to see him back? Spalletti don't like him at Napoli, and they're winning the league and potentially go really far in the Champions League. Mourinho seemed to get a tune out of him for a little bit, and then that completely fell off the rails. Conte don't want anything to do with him. So, I mean, like, why? What's the point?
Because
it's a waste of time.
Because he came at a time when there was a lot of disarray and all that kind of stuff. He came to play under Pochettino, a possession-based, like high, like playing good, attractive football, and then he very quickly got sacked, and we never had that back.
But is he not going through that at Napoli now? The best Napoli side we've seen.
Right, they're winning the league. How is he going to get in the team? They're so good.
But he's had his chances and he's not taking them.
Because they're playing very well. What can he do?
But he's had his chances, and when he's had his chances, the manager don't fancy
From what
him.
I've heard, I've read up on him about his time in Napoli. They're not like, they don't hate him, but it's pretty much similar to what we've heard at Tottenham. Like he's got all the potential in the world, but there's just something missing with him.
And we heard about this before he even came to Tottenham. We spoke to those Lyon fans. They said exactly the same things, that he can come, he'll perform in the big games, but his mentality ain't there to stick it out in the big time and play week in, week out like that.
How old is he now in Ndombele?
I don't know. I'm sick of talking about this guy because I just want him gone ASAP. He's 26.
He's 26 now. I mean,
you know what's going to happen? He's going to come back. A new manager's going to be like, all right, I can get a tune out of him. Might get a few good games out of him, and then it's just going to revert back to the same old thing that it always does. The training's going to get too hard for him.
Ndombele didn't become like an unbelievable player for Tottenham up until he was a similar age.
Yeah, that's also true. But I think that with Ndombele, we didn't really know his best position until Poch really came and got the best out of him. Ndombele,
maybe he just needs a manager. Maybe he just needs a manager to believe in him.
Mourinho, Conte,
a manager who plays attacking football.
I'm done with Ndombele, man. Not for me. Not for me.
I'm willing to explore a second chance.
Don't do it, Sim.
I'm willing to do
it, man.
Look, watch his compilations, bro.
Watch his compilations with his last bit of the good compilation coming from 3 years ago.
Look, if we sit down with him and he's willing to, he's like, I'm ready for this, and we want a manager, and we have a manager who thinks they can get the best out of him. Why not?
So we can just do all this again in a year's time, in 6 months'
Just
time.
because things happened in football doesn't mean it's always going to stay the same. Maybe things can
But
change.
there is a likelihood that it might stay the same.
It might do. It probably will, but
And
it
we're
could
just wasting
change.
our time then if it
But it
stays
could
the
change.
same.
But it could change.
Anyway, let's move on. I'm sick and tired of talking about Ndombele.
Tay THFC says Conte should be our priority, not bringing in another manager.
Yep, I completely agree with that. I don't even think, I mean, it's unpopular to some people, but I think that I've said it many a time. My priority is to tie Conte down to a contract, but if he's not going to tie himself down to a contract, or we're not going to offer him a contract, it's best for all parties to separate as soon as possible.
Yeah, and I agree with that. Our priority should be trying to get Conte to commit, but at this point, it does look unlikely. And if he isn't going to commit, then we can't waste any time. But we have seen with Conte before. It look, that he looks like he's all for the world to see he's going to leave, and then sometimes he does stay, and then sometimes he does leave. So the uncertainty isn't good, but I think that should be our priority at this point. I don't see it helping constantly chopping and changing managers and all that kind of stuff. I would like to see us just stick with something.
We
and
need some
see it
continuity
out.
at this football club. We really do. And I think Conte, I love Conte. I think he's a great manager. I really do. And I think once he gets a really good defence behind him, you're going to see much different, football. You'll see more attacking football. Maybe not as attacking as maybe we've seen in the past at Tottenham, but you'll see good football, good on the eye football like we saw at the back end of last season. And my priority, I think Conte, for the best of this football club, should stay for the next few years.
Yeah, I hope so. But if he isn't, then we do have to think about life after him, and that has to start now.
Yeah, let's move on.
Davey Spurs again says Kulu and Son should be taken out of the team and replaced by Danjuma and Rishi for the next 3 to 4 games. Not great timing this tweet, just after Son scored.
Yeah, I might have agreed with you before the last game. I think Kulusevski did come out the team and Richarlison played well, so maybe that should keep. But I'm just not sure about Son for Danjuma, to be honest. I thought Son played really well, so I think he deserved to keep his place.
Yeah, I've got a feeling now, Son with 1 game a week, maybe we're going to see a fresher, a better version of Son from now to the end of the season. I'm hoping anyway.
Sorry.
No, go on.
As well as if Perisic doesn't play, he's going to have all those spaces on the left-hand side as well, like we saw in the last game. So hopefully it will stand him in good stead.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to see Son come out of the team right now. I don't see the point. Just after he scored as well, I don't see it helping anything. Him coming out just after he's back on the score sheet. Yeah. Bish says Conte needs to stay and be allowed to finish what he started. Look at Arsenal with Arteta a couple seasons ago.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess. Yeah.
I mean, it's the same as the one before, really. I think that, like I said, I think my priority is for Conte to stay.
Is it comparable to the Arsenal situation with Arteta? It being his first job really, and maybe he had to learn the ropes. Conte is a bit different.
I wouldn't say it's like exactly the same, but there are similarities there. There is similarity in terms of to stick with a manager. A lot of people aren't happy with the tactics, with the football, and everything like that, and put it solely down to Conte. So I think that if we do stick with him and if he does sign that contract and we get a better defence and a few other players dotted around, you'll see much better football, like I said before. So I think it's similar to an extent, but it's not exactly identical.
I think the similarities come when they both entered the job in terms of what the job in hand was to do. I think there were similarities in the job. In terms of who they are as managers, there's very little similarity. But in terms of what the job at hand was, to rebuild an aging team which had been in the wilderness for a few years, that was pretty much the job of both Arteta and Conte when entering. And to be fair, Conte rejuvenated Spurs a lot quicker than Arteta did to Arsenal. But over the long period of time, Conte after 18 months is doing better than what Arteta was doing after 18 months at Arsenal. But Arsenal, he's 3 years ahead. He's 3 years into his career at Arsenal. He's got double the amount of time, but then again, he doesn't have anywhere near as much experience as Conte.
And
so
also Conte had better players to work with from the start too.
You could argue that. I don't know.
I mean, Kane, Son, Lloris, Romero, Arsenal had nowhere near the level of players of Kane, Son, Romero,
I mean,
Lloris, these kind
Aubameyang
of
was
players.
the top goal scorer he was Golden Boot when he
maybe
had
was
them.
Golden Boot, but it's still not the same level as Harry Kane.
I mean, they were arguing at the time that he was.
Yeah, but
Lacazette was a very good
They argued
striker.
it, but what did you say back to them?
Yeah, well, of course, I believe that Kane's better, but Aubameyang had won 2 back-to-back Golden Boots or something, hadn't he? Or why he just won the Golden Boot when Arteta took over?
Look at that season Kane just had under Jose Mourinho.
Look at the season Kane just had under Jose Mourinho.
Kane just got top assister and
I
crazy
know
amount of
Kane is
goals.
better than Aubameyang. I'm just saying Aubameyang won the goal. We're not dealing with no rubbish players.
I'm not saying Aubameyang is rubbish, but I'm saying that they didn't have the same level of player that we had. They didn't have a Son on the left. They didn't have a Kane up front. They didn't have a Romero at the back, and they didn't have a Lloris in goal. I mean, we had a better Conte had a better starting squad than Arteta did.
I think if you look at Arteta's squad at the time, I think it was. Obviously, in hindsight, like it wasn't very good. But at the time, you could have easily said he had a lot of quality to work with. At that time, Mikel Arteta and Conte, we under Nuno, everyone was saying our whole team was rubbish. Everyone was saying absolutely no one rated any of our players at that time. So I don't know. I think a lot of it is hindsight. I think they had a very similar level of squad, in my opinion.
Yeah, I just think that the star players in the Spurs team of that time, I mean, would just completely walk into that Arsenal team. And that's what I'm saying. Like, maybe the basis of the squad, there was both a lot of average dross in both squads, which you can't deny. But I just felt like the star players in the Tottenham team set the two squads apart.
But you remember when Arteta first came in, they won the FA Cup and Aubameyang dragged them to it, and they were begging him to sign the contracts.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like we're dealing with a player who just he was one of the Premier League's top strikers at the time.
Yeah, I completely agree.
Haley Steinfeld says Heung-min Son will be back firing on all cylinders again next season. Reguilon still has a future at Tottenham, and we should ship Bryan Hill whenever we have the chance to.
It's an interesting one on Reguilon. I was having a talk with someone the other day about him, and he's one that I might give another chance to next season. I'd much prefer him to have in the squad than Sessegnon. That's for sure. Do I even prefer him in the squad to Perisic right now? Maybe. So I think Reguilon can be given another chance if we
move to a back four, 100%.
Yeah, even that, especially that. And what was the other part of that tweet?
Son will be back firing on all cylinders next season.
100%. Of course he will.
Yeah, no doubt about it.
Yeah, I have no qualms about Sonny. I mean, yeah, he's had a poor season, but he'll be back fit and firing next season for sure. And I even think he's going to have a strong end to the season as well.
I agree with that. I'm hoping he gets at least double digits in goals, probably, hopefully more. Becca says Jose would have won a trophy with Spurs had he stayed for another season.
He would have won a trophy at Spurs if he stayed for another few weeks.
6 days, a few days.
6 days,
if
yeah.
he stayed for another 6 days, he probably would have won one. So I don't think that's controversial. Although we all said that if Jose had a better centre-back in that season, we probably would have got top 4. And I think that's still true. The amount of times we were in the lead and then a stupid mistake would cost us and we ended up drawing 1-1. It happened so many times. Yeah. And I think a lot of the time, tactically, we were okay, but physically, fitness-wise, we were not up to scratch, and quality-wise as well. And it did end up letting us down under Jose big time. But he also polarised the fan base a lot. And last one of this video, Joe Rodon would walk into this team next season.
Oh, God. I love Spurs fans, man. Joe Rodon walks into this team.
Next
Maybe
season.
walks into our under-23s team.
He walks into the team. Well, is he better than Dyer next season?
I don't see why not. He wasn't better than Dyer when he left. Why would he be better when he comes back?
Don't know, maybe better, more experience, maybe more mature.
Maybe. I haven't seen much of him, to be honest, out in Rennes. I'm not sure how he's getting on, but I can't really see him walking back into this team when he comes here next season.
No. Definitely not. Not in our first team, anyway. Maybe we'll walk onto the transfer list, I think.
Yeah, exactly. Walk straight back onto the loan list. That's what he's going to do. Let's hope his brother's not watching. Know him, do ya? But no, I think that is all we're going to do for episode 1 of Your Unpopular Opinions. Check back because another episode is coming your way if you enjoyed that. But thank you, everyone, for joining. Like, subscribe, and comment. And as always,
come on, you Spurs.